In the past couple of years, we've watched as cities in other states have been victimized by organized retail theft. And we've watched as communities have been terrorized by people who are coming in and looting stores. What hasn't been shown on TV is just as bad and possibly worse. Retail stores are being devastated by groups who recklessly and intentionally take what they want and leave destruction in their wake. Many are organized gangs who have found new funding sources with stolen merchandise. And the impact of this affects every one of us. Whether it's a large national retail chain or a local business owner, this type of crime has extreme ripple effects. According to a 2019 study by the Retail Industry Leaders Association, Arizona had over $2.4 billion worth of goods stolen. The economic impact of retail crime in Arizona results in over $766 million in lost wages and 14,297 lost jobs. It is so demoralizing to the employees that it affects retailers' ability to even hire people to work. And it affects our own wallets. The exorbitantly high prices that we're currently facing are impacted by three things. First of all, inflation. Secondly, supply chain issues, but also losses due to theft. Everyday Arizonans cannot and should not pay more for things like baby formula, diapers, household items, cleaning supplies, hygiene products, etc. Losses caused by this kind of theft result in stores closing. This means elderly have to travel further to get their medication in this heat, and if they don't drive, how much harder that is for them. Those in low socioeconomic neighborhoods may have to travel outside of their communities to get things like fresh fruit and vegetables and other important things to be healthy. And then there's a loss of sense of safety and security. Employees fear those who brazenly steal right in front of their eyes. Just last week, we saw Starbucks announce that they're closing 16 stores over safety concerns, and I'll quote the CEO. "We are beginning to close stores because of safety issues. This is just the beginning. There are going to be many more." Areas where these stores are closing are very predictable. LA County, Seattle, and Portland. This is primarily due to the policies of local DAs who do not hold criminals accountable and city councils who do not fund and support police. This will not happen in Maricopa County on my watch. Today I am here with representatives from the Arizona Retailers Association and other retailers to announce on behalf of the Maricopa County Attorney's Office a plan to combat this issue. I'm creating an organized retail theft team comprised of dedicated prosecutors and an investigator to coordinate with the business community and local law enforcement to ensure the successful prosecution of these crimes. In Maricopa County, my message to those who commit these crimes is you are not welcome in our community. You will be held accountable. And the people who are coming here from other states, such as California, specifically Los Angeles or Las Vegas or Albuquerque, you need to understand that if you come here and commit these crimes, plan to stay a little bit longer than you thought you would. We are not going to tolerate that here. With that, I'll take your questions.
You briefly mentioned that criminals have found new funding sources, I guess customers for what they have stolen. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yeah, we're seeing people who are getting, stealing mass amounts of products from these stores, and they are selling those, and that of course creates a funding or a revenue source. So it's more than just taking the money for themselves.
The images we see often are the smash and grab thefts with several people at once. Do you know, how common is that here in Maricopa County? And have any of these representatives of the retail industry seen that?
We'll actually have a representative from the Arizona Retailers Association available for questions afterwards, but we are seeing that, as well as other increase in violence that people who work in these retail stores are having to face.
And what's an example of something that you believe we should be doing or we are doing in Maricopa County that is not happening in maybe these other cities to prevent these or to hold people accountable?
Well, first of all, you have a district attorney in Los Angeles who's basically announced that he won't prosecute retail theft below $1,000, which is just like writing criminals a check. That will not be happening here. There will be no threshold set below which we won't prosecute. We will also not be asking for them to be released without bond. We're going to be asking that they be held on bond, and we'll be holding them accountable for the level of violence that they inflict when they commit these crimes.
We recently saw a robbery, armed robbery in Anthem at a jewelry store. How do you plan to move forward with charges against those two suspects? Will you be using this case as an example of that you're cracking down and won't tolerate it?
We'll be treating that case like we will treat the rest of the cases, not using as an example, but that will be an example of how we will be treating other cases. We are in the process of extraditing them from California to where they were caught, as you know, to stand charges here.
Do you know what you want to charge them with yet?
I haven't looked at all the details of charges, but obviously the first one that comes to mind would be armed robbery.
Ms. Mitchell, you use the term looting. However, looting is generally considered a crime of theft at a store that happens during a riot or an act of war, etc.
Mm-hmm.
How can you classify this as looting, and do you intend to apply state looting laws to people who are involved in smash and grab store records?
I think you're using looting in a very specific way. I'm using it as a term of art, but looting to me means what these people are doing, which is going into retail stores, sometimes multiple people, and grabbing things and leaving, regardless of whether it's related to a protest or not. The crimes that we'll be charging these people with can include theft, organized retail theft, armed robbery, if there's any sort of weapons that are displayed in a threatening manner toward the retail employees. It could be aggravated assault. I mean, I'm going to have to look at each case, but those are, I'm using that in a way to mean people who are coming in and just grabbing things and leaving. This is not a burglary at night.
Okay, because I mean, when people think of looting, they think about what happened to the Scottsdale Mall a couple of years ago, but this is different than that.
It could include that, but yes, obviously.
And is there any difference? I mean, aren't you prosecuting all these cases now?
We're prosecuting them, but one of the things that we've started with this group is we're going to have a specialized group of attorneys that handle it, number one. Number two, we're going to have an investigator who will be working with local law enforcement as well as the Retailers Association to coordinate efforts. A lot of times what we'll see with these individuals is they're not going to just hit one store, they're going to hit multiple stores, and it may not be the same type of retailer, it may be multiple retailers. So we need somebody to coordinate that so that we can see the cumulative effort, so we can have a consistent and all-encompassing investigation and prosecution. And so that's going to make a difference in terms of penalty. It's also going to make a difference in terms of pretrial bond or bail.
You're short on prosecutors.
Yeah.
Where is this group of prosecutors coming from, and what responsibilities will they be leaving behind to focus on retail theft?
You're right, we are short on prosecutors. We have been building up the numbers in the office somewhat, but this is just taking a priority because as you've probably heard me say, I'm a firm believer in the broken windows theory of prosecution. And if we allow this type of crime to flourish, we're going to see much more serious crime occur. And so we're going to work and accumulate these cases together so that we can do a joint prosecution. And what I think is going to happen, what I know is going to happen, is we're going to see a reduction. But you have to give the resources up front. If you don't do that, you're going to see an increase, and you're going to pay for it in the end anyway.
more of a reaction to something that's a big problem in other cities that's not so much a problem here?
It's actually becoming a bigger problem here. One of the things that the Arizona Retailers Association told me was that in the past, what they've seen are local criminals that they've had to deal with. But as you're seeing from the case that you asked me about at the robbery of the jewelry store, we're starting to see criminals come from those other jurisdictions into this state. And that needs to be curtailed. I'm not going to wait until it gets that bad and then do something.
So is the retail reps gonna talk now, or can we ask you about other topics?
You can ask me about other topics, and then they'll hang off to the side, and then they'll be here afterwards, Joe.
Okay, great. On the DNA testing process, DPS reported last month. Right now, they have 595 cases with a turnaround time of 109 days. Is that a concern for MCAO overall?
You know, there has been a backlog. There is a backlog. I know that agencies across the state, other crime labs are working hard to keep up with the demand. So far, it hasn't been an issue, and they've been very responsive to working with us if we need something prioritized. So, but it is a reality of the situation right now.
Ms. Mitchell, about the Glenn Robertson case.
Yes.
As you know, he was acquitted on Monday. And you declined to talk about it last week while it was still in trial. Now that it's over, I hope you can explain to us, why did you continue to pursue the gang charges against this man when it became evident that the defense was going to be he was just expressing his displeasure with the police? And was there any evidence that he was actually a gang member?
Well, let me still be a little bit careful about what I say. As you know, Melissa, he's not just charged in that case. He's charged with two others. One he's been convicted on and is pending sentencing. The other one starts trial next week. But in speaking in general terms, there is a difference between expressing one's opinion and displeasure with the police, or even chanting Black Lives Matter, and then telling a cop that you're going to bring crip action against her. That is not acceptable. I totally accept the jury's verdict in this situation, but people need to understand that we are going to take threats of gang retaliation against anybody, including our officers, seriously.
The other thing about the case that was raised by community justice advocates was about some of the things that the prosecutor in that particular case said about one of the witnesses, an expert on gangs. That in court, he said things implying that this particular man was about to get fired from his job for lying. Now, the Arizona Department of Juvenile Correction says he's not being fired. So can you, and the defense and these community advocates took it as your prosecutor was trying to intimidate the witness against actually testifying by implying he was about to get fired. What is your reaction to that? Are you looking into this further?
I did look into it when it happened, and first of all, the witness went on, I think it was your channel, saying that he was told he had been fired, which, of course, as you know now, is an inaccurate statement. That was something that was the result of a conversation that my attorney had with the department for which this witness worked. I believe there was a misunderstanding. I do not think that there was anything inappropriate or intentional on the part of the prosecutor after looking into it and speaking to the director.
You think it was just a mistake?
I think it was a misunderstanding and a miscommunication.
We recently saw a case where a young child drowned while the mother was sleeping and thought the child was sleeping as well. Drownings of young children are a common thing in Arizona, so how do you approach charging these cases? It's a sensitive subject. There was a loss of life of a young child. How do you balance that?
Yeah. You know, as you know, I mean, my background is in prosecuting crimes against children, and we've actually had more than one tragedy like this in recent weeks. And my heart goes out to people who love and care about that child. And I would just, I would say, first of all, to the community, please understand that child drownings can happen so quickly. I've watched videos over the years where people are actually in a pool with a child and the child slips underwater, and it's a security video. So it's very easy to happen very quick. But in looking at cases that involve child drownings, what I look at is there an additional factor that takes this from a horrible tragedy into something that is a criminal act. And things include if there is, alcohol intoxication or drug use, or awareness that the child is in the pool and walking away from it. So there's something that we have to find that would bump it up from, like I said, a tragic accident to a criminal act.
And so in the surprise drowning case where the safeguards that are normally in place weren't in place that day, do you know how you are going to charge that case?
I don't. It is under review. It's been submitted.
Are you able to provide a status update on the Aaron Dutton case, this teacher that was charged by Gilbert Police initially? And I know you sent the case back to Gilbert PD. Do you know any more details as to why it was sent back and where it stands?
Yeah, I don't want to go into any details as to why it was sent back, since it's an active investigation as far as, our communication with Gilbert. But what I can tell you is it's been referred back to them. It's still with them, and they are going through additional investigative steps.
And then on another case, the Devontae Neal murder case, it took 4 years for prosecutors to get an indictment against him.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why it did take that long?
Yeah, I can only answer in terms of, I can only speak to what happened in terms of this office. I know that we were briefed on the case last spring, and at that time had asked for some additional investigation to be done. That was done. It was officially then submitted to us in March of this year. And of course, as you know, we took action.
Okay, anything else?
Okay.
You're good?
All right, sure.
Yeah. Michelle, you want to come up and answer any retail questions?
Hi, my name is Michelle Ulmer. I'm the Executive Director of the Arizona Retailers Association, and I'll do my best to answer questions.
Can
What's
you
the
start
most
by
important
spelling,
thing?
I'm sorry, can you start by spelling your first and last name?
Yes, Michelle, Michelle, Ulmer, Ahlmer.
What's the most important thing you want consumers to know about what you as a group are asking for and doing?
I think the most important thing for the consumer to know is that we are conscious of them and want to protect them and make their experiences best as possible. So for that reason, we have instructed our employees for years now to not engage. We don't want them to try and stop anyone, because these acts are becoming more and more violent. The worst thing we can imagine is that a customer or an employee get harmed in one of these experiences. So.
Do you have a particular example of a case that you think wasn't properly prosecuted in the past, which is why you're here with the county attorney now?
I don't. My job is not to be involved in active investigations, but I can say that things, we need things to move a little more quickly than they have been. And the county attorney's office has been great to support us in the past, and this just raises it to a next level. We're really, really grateful for the support, and this is really good news for the retail industry.
So when you say you need things to move more quickly, they've been moving slow?
Not from the county attorney's perspective, but throughout the whole system. Sometimes it's very difficult for police departments to prioritize. Certainly, if there's a murder investigation, they're less likely to show up at an organized retail theft. Many times it is assumed that it's a shoplift. And our statutes differentiate between shoplifting, which is for personal use, and organized retail theft, which is theft for the purpose of reselling.
Can you give us an idea, how long have you been with the association, and historically, what are you seeing? Are you seeing specific trends, and do you have any data related to those trends? Not just related to theft, but even specifically the more violent encounters and smash and grabs.
Yeah, I can, first of all, I've been with the association for 28 years, 30 years, something like that. And I have some data that was mentioned by County Attorney Mitchell from the Retail Industry Leaders Association that I can give you my contact information. If you want to send me a request, I can send you a study that was pretty comprehensive. It was done in 2019, which is significant because these crimes escalated during the pandemic. As you can imagine, everyone's wearing a mask. So the data has shown we've been really focusing on these crimes and recognizing them as different than other types of shoplifting for over a decade. And we've made changes at the legislature. We've worked with local law enforcement. We've worked with the county attorneys. We've worked with the Attorney General's office. And over time, we are seeing that they are becoming more violent. They are becoming even more organized than they were in the beginning. This is an organization that either recruits and then they train, or they take advantage of I should say, disadvantaged people, drug addicts, homeless. They'll hire them for the day. This is an organized effort. They know what to shoplift. They know what they're going to get paid. I shouldn't even call it shoplifting. They're paid to steal, and then they know what they're going to get paid. They know who to report to. We need to stop that behavior at the store level, but we also need the fence. We need to find out who is organizing it and put a stop, cut the head off the snake.
And are you referring to covert shoplifting in most of these cases, or do you have some examples of the violence? As well.
Yeah.
They're both terrible, but can you give me an idea of what trend you're seeing with specifically like the county attorney mentioned?
It's way more violent.
Robberies.
Well, even if it's not an armed robbery, it is violent to the extent that there is physical altercations. We've had knives, we've had guns, we've had bear spray, we've had customers that inadvertently get involved. It has definitely escalated. Originally, we were more aware. We were watching the covert activity, and they were more subtle about things. Now it's brazen. It's just brazen. They'll walk in, take whatever merchandise they're after, and pretty much thumb their nose as they walk out. Because they know we're not going to stop them at the store level because we don't want that dangerous activity to hurt anyone.
Did you see the violence escalate as well during the pandemic?
Yeah, I would say pre-pandemic it had begun, but it got worse.
I do have to ask this question because it is 2 weeks before the election, and this is a new initiative being announced by the county attorney's office. Is the Retailers Association endorsing Rachel Mitchell and her campaign, and have you contributed to the campaign either as an organization or individually?
The organization does not endorse candidates, nor do we have a PAC, so we have not contributed. We are grateful for her support and attention on this. As you know, she hasn't been in the position for very long, and this has come to her attention, and she's acting. We're grateful for it.
How much do you estimate each year you have this kind of loss of organized retail theft?
The study that we have from the Retail Industry Leaders Association was done in 2019, and at that point, the actual product loss was, is it 2.4 billion? 2.4 billion in Arizona alone, and that was pre-pandemic, and it's gone up since then.
All right, everybody, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.